Hey, I tell you what, the Shooters Pod is the place. If you want NBL news, great banter, health tips, behind the scenes conversations about the NBL, whether it's from the media side or the players side, this is the place to be.
Oh, welcome everybody. I just want to start off by saying it's an absolute privilege to be joined by an all-second NBL team member himself. I should say an all-NBL second team is the correct wording, but congrats again, Jack, of course I'm talking. No one else is joining us. It's Jack, but I found myself quite funny last night before I let him in. We were talking about it, and I was I'm not the most enthusiastic type, so I almost didn't hype him up enough as I should have. So that was my second-ditch effort. I hope it was okay.
It was great, Darren. And first off, I never noticed anything last night out of pocket or out of whack. I definitely didn't leave our interaction going, I'm feeling dumbed down from Darren's lack of energy, which I didn't even notice. So, sometimes maybe that introspective thoughts aren't actually the reality of the situation, because I loved our interaction and it was good stuff.
I was overthinking it, clearly. But how did it feel? You were first up on the stage, mind you. You got ahead of everyone. I don't know. I guess that's probably just because you got called out first, maybe. I don't even know. But I'm assuming you half expected one of the teams.
Well, it's interesting because I would say a month ago, the thought hadn't even popped into my brain a month ago that I could be up for this kind of thing. It's not something I focused on. It's not something I was kind of a goal I was working towards. And then all of a sudden the talk kind of started of people saying, is Jack first team or second team? And I was like, oh, wow, that came out of nowhere. What's going on there? So on the night, I always try to get expect the worst, or I don't know, I always am trying to say, I'm just here and going to enjoy the time with my teammates and have a good night and expect the worst so I don't get disappointed. But it was very lovely being caught up on stage. The trophy was nice, and it was very, very special to be up there with Milton Doyle, because it was kind of what I was saying to my teammates afterwards. I was like, the crazy thing for me wasn't necessarily being second team. It was for 2 years now, I show up at practice every day and I'm like, wow, this dude is so good at basketball. Milton Doyle is amazing. And, I watch him do things. I'm like, holy crap. Milton's my hero. The way he moves, the way he scores the ball, the way he talks about the game and all of that. And then, so for me to be up there on that stage with him next to me, I was like, wow, maybe some people think that about me. So that was kind of the surreal moment of oh, wow, I'm kind of even playing field. This is my peer, rather than me looking up to this dude in a way of wow, this dude's so crazy, so talented, so good at basketball. And so that for me was kind of the craziest part of the night.
No, trust me, they do. You're definitely a headline act, just being around all the circles of what we chat about, what the press conference today. We had a finals launch. By the way, this is coming the night after the MVP Awards. So nice and fresh. We literally just half caught up yesterday, and now we're doing this tonight. We just want to chat about the awards and everything that went down. But yes, you're definitely a headline name. Trust me. Your name always gets floated around. It's always up there, even today. Some media members asked about you and Scott Roth. Actually, this is a good segue. What is the yo-yo task or something? Or there's some preseason yo-yo exercise that you Tassie guys do, and Scott Roth was hyping you up in the press conference today, saying it wasn't one of the guards, it was Jack McVeigh, the one that was the best yo-yo doer or something. Explain what the hell a yo-yo is.
That's good. This is funny because I've never had to explain this to someone in the sporting world, so this is a good question. So did you ever do the beep test growing up, at school?
Yes.
So do you want to quickly break down the beep test?
Yeah, I think it was just effectively there's levels every time the beep goes. The beep basically just gets shorter, and you basically have to make it to halfway or free throw or whatever the line is. And each time you do it and basically make one round, the beep gets quicker and quicker and quicker and quicker. And if you don't make it, you have to go back. You have to leave. You have to go off to the side. And it's basically, if you can you beat the game? Can you beat the beep test?
I think it does have a finishing, but not many people in the world have done it, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah, so pretty much the beep test and the yo-yo test are almost the same thing. So there's the timer. You have to touch the line before the timer. The yo-yo is the exact same test, but there's a 10-second break in between each run.
Okay.
So in a normal yo-yo, let's say basketball court, we're on a basketball podcast, you'd start baseline, run opposite free throw line, run baseline, and it would continue. While in the yo-yo test, you'd start baseline, run to the opposite free throw, touch baseline, and then there's a 10-second break. And then the speed of which you have to run is a lot quicker. So it becomes a sprint very quickly. Versus the beat test, which is more of like the starting levels are almost a walk, and then it builds up to a jog, and it's more a long endurance test. Versus the yo-yo test, which is a bit more sports specific, a sprint, then a kind of like a very quick rest, and then a sprint again. And I came in pretty good shape and got the win.
Yo-yo champ. He did, yeah, Scott did say how good a shape you came in as well. So yes, he was singing your praises today, which was nice to see. We just had like a finals launch, basically a player from each team, a coach from each team, just up on a little press conference type style today, which was good. Had a fair few media there as well. So I was there today. Jack did not get the call up, but I think he quietly was fine to be home a bit early. So, but the MVP overall, from my side, everyone seemed pretty happy with it. Everyone seemed like it was a smooth moving event. There's still some, I always think to myself as like just a fan or just a person observing, there is some awkward moments where like it's hard to get the crowd engaged, and it's hard to keep everyone sort of like engaged the entire time. But I think the guys did a pretty good job, and there were some funny moments along the way. Talk to us from a player's point of view. How was it?
Yeah. So these events are always interesting for me because you're there, there's free drinks, free food, you get dressed up, but there's always this part of it where you're asking, am I enjoying this or am I not? Few reasons for that. One, you're with your teammates, which is you're having a great time with them. But then two, there's a lot of semi-awkward interactions where you guys know each other. Like, do I go talk to them? Do I not? It's kind of this like social setting. And then it's also at the core of it, it's a work event. You got to be professional. You're on your game. You're surrounded by the CEOs, your coach. It's a business event. It's a work. You're on call working. So it's always like a cool night. It's fun, but then it's a little stressful in some situations. And I always leave them kind of going, I'm not sure if I had a great time or if I was just slightly uncomfortable for 3 hours.
You're like, what the hell happened?
And that's kind of how I always leave any of those big events.
It's actually a very good way of describing it, because it does, like, I kind of get you even from my perspective. Like, I half know a lot of you guys, and I kind of, sometimes you forget who you've had run-ins as well, so you feel kind of awkward if you didn't say hi, or you feel awkward if you go to say hi and they're like, who the hell are you? But I like the way you summed it up. You just walked out of there after 3 hours and you're like, I don't know what happened, and I don't know if I had a good night, but it was something. So it is one of those things, because you guys have to find that balance of like, and even us to an extent, I guess, but that balance of like enjoying yourself, but you're working. Like, it's all professional people around you, and that would be hard.
I call it I'm working, but I wasn't really. I was drinking, enjoying myself. You on the night were working. What does that consist of on a night like that for you? So what did you do last night? What did your night look like?
So a lot of the main bit was just like those red carpet interviews, which it's always funny because like I always grab you because I'm closest with you as a player, so I'm always just like, yeah, we'll grab him, he'll be good, and you are a good interview anyway. But it's probably half annoying sometimes because I'm just like, yeah, you said hello to me, so that means you have to come along and do the interview. But it was with Felix, who always has a good time. He always is a bit loose with it. He draws a line sometimes. Like some of the stuff he says, I just laugh to myself, and I'm like, yeah, we're not using that, or don't ask that. But he's a funny guy. He's always fun to kind of be around and just see what the hell is going through his mind. So red carpet interviews, that was one. Just grabbing some overall footage of that as well as you guys arrive, and just some behind the scenes stuff. And we also did like an in-person recording of a podcast that we do like daily at the end with Damon Lowry and Joel Peterson as well. So just little things like that. It's pretty consistent year to year, but it also it just gives us a chance to freshen up what we do every year at the event. But I always really enjoy just being there, honestly. It's kind of cool having you guys all in the same room.
No, I agree. It's definitely got some cool energy about it. You know, people are dressed up nice. People are celebrating. What bottom line was another great NBL season. I mean, you look at biggest crowds ever. The games were exciting. Playoffs, people are pumped for. And so to celebrate that, that's what that night was all about. And then it was some good food, some good quality drinks, some great company, and then some different entertainment. Now, it is a little bit of a talking point.
Yes.
The magician.
Yes.
So, did you, one, get to deal with him up close and personal? And then two, what did you think of the magic performance that occurred on the night?
Well, I unfortunately did not get to talk to him or meet him up close and personal, but it was funny because the first thing that I wanted to touch on, I was just going to be like, how do you like The Magician? Because I've heard some people talking about it and joking about it, but look, his main act, let's call it, was a bit awkward. I was just like looking back, like I was standing at the very back, just soaking it all in. And I just turned to my colleague and I'm like, what are we watching? Like, what what is going on here? But it would be hard. It's a hard gig. But actually, Matt Kenyon was back there with me at one point and I was talking to him about it. And he actually said, despite the magician's main act kind of falling a bit short, he actually went around to everyone's tables and Matt Kenyon was like, the magician's trick on the table was actually really impressive. So I'm torn now.
So it's very interesting. So on the night, he had a main act, and it was kind of like a naming trick with like a mascot or a toy, and kind of it didn't really land. It involved the crowd, but it didn't really land. People kind of didn't know what was going on. It was kind of like a trust me, bro magic trick. But the problem with it was, or what really got me was earlier in the night, he had been coming around the tables and performing magic tricks. And so he came up to Farb, me, myself, Magne, Shawnee. And when I tell you his magic tricks at the table were unbelievable. So when we saw him get up on the main stage, all of us were tapping each other like, oh, what's he about to do? And he had a little trick pretty much where at some point he drew a little permanent marker love heart on Farb's hand without him knowing. And then, he did some tricks. I was holding some cards and he managed to switch it out with like a little block. And that was incredible. But then, he got Farb to choose a hand out of nowhere, and all of a sudden he showed him his own hand and then Farb's hand had a love heart on it. And it was unbelievable. The boys were rolling around screaming. And so I think for us, the table tricks were incredible and put probably a bit too much pressure on the main show.
It was interesting. I will say that, and I can literally imagine your reaction once he did that trick to you guys at the table. I just reckon you'd be up and about. I wanted to touch on, are you guys, so the Jackies, for people that don't know, you guys are always kind of in your, I told you it didn't even look that green, your suits last night. To me, it didn't even look that green. Maybe it was the lighting. It looked more darker. But you guys are normally in your nice green, like dark green suits, matching outfits. They're very good. They're looking sharp. Who was the best dressed, do you reckon? Not out of you guys, because it was pretty same, but out of everyone you saw on the night, give a shout out to someone. I just want I've got a name, but maybe you have the same name.
First off, it's a good question. Yes, the Jack Jumpers will wear these, they are dark green. They're actually really nice jackets, and they have the number of which you were signed to the Jack Jumpers, engraved on them, and they're personal, got your initials on the inside, and they're all custom made for everyone. So I know a couple guys on our team don't enjoy wearing them because they wish they could show off their creativity, Jordan Crawford being one of them. But for someone like me that didn't have to think about what I was going to wear, it was absolutely perfect. And I love wearing these green jackets. Best dressed of the night, though, I always enjoy a more laid-back look. So if someone can pull off a shirt and make it look really, style it up with some nice jewelry and some nice shoes and stuff. So I liked what Patrick Miller was wearing. I think he was looking cool, sharp, collected. I think all black with a little black undershirt, nice little necklace and all that good stuff. So I enjoyed, what Patrick Miller was wearing on the night.
I like it. Nobody actually noticed that my tie had little cameras on it, which I thought was a great touch. Jess got me that and was very excited by it. And then I got home and she's just like, did anyone mention the tie? I'm like, no, but I had to point it out to some of my colleagues by myself. So a bit disappointing, but that's all right. It's the smaller details. But I had Parker Jackson Cartwright. He was, I don't know if you saw him, but I don't know how to describe what he was wearing. It was kind of had some cool hat. He had some cool jacket that said police in a different language, like Polizzi or something. He He had a lot going on, and there was a funny moment actually. So most of the players, when you guys walk in, a fair few of you don't really like the photos. But then as the night goes on, you come back out and you're like, hey, I'll grab a photo now because I'm feeling a bit more comfortable. So Parker Jackson Cartwright and someone else, was it Keanu Pinder? I think it was Keanu Pinder. Those two came out. They're like, hey, can we get some photos? And then I had my camera. I was kind of normally ready to go take the photo. But no, Parker Jackson Cartwright just handed me his glass for me to hold, and someone else took the photo. So I went from the photographer. I got all confident. I'm like, yeah, I'll do it. And he's just like, he pointed to someone else with the camera, and just gave me his glass to hold for like a minute. And I'm like,
wow. So you went from photographer to glass holder.
Yeah. It was a bit of a drop from the roof, but that's all right. That's all right. He was very nice though, so that's all that matters.
I like it. Well, we've talked all the antics to start this episode. Let's get into a little bit of awards. MVP was an obvious one. Bryce Cotton. Did you enjoy anything particularly from his speech? I was a little too engrossed in conversation with Mags and Shawnee at the time, so I didn't listen to much. But any speech that you liked throughout the night, or Bryce Cotton in particular, because he makes it 4 MVPs, which is the most ever behind Gazy. Unbelievable stuff. And usually, if I wasn't so distracted, I love listening to speeches, especially by people that in their moment of triumph, what do they focus on?
No, he's quite softly spoken. I can't remember nothing. He always speaks well when he does speak, but I think he just said something about, or Jack Heverin up on stage must have asked him about like ever catching Gazy, but you could tell, which I think Gaze has 7 MVP. I don't know how many MVPs he has, maybe 7. Sounds right. But you could just tell in his head he was. To me, it was almost just like he's going to get to a point where he's going to reflect on actually what he's done in this league. Like I know it's hard once you're playing to like look back and be like, hey, I'm killing it. Like, hey, I'm like one of the greatest of all times. Like it's hard to do that. So to me, the 4th one was almost just like, I'm really doing this. Like I'm still doing this and I'm still climbing the history ranks. So I found that cool. And shout out to our designer. If anyone saw one of the posts that we put up, it was like Bryce sort of holding a trophy like behind him, and behind him was like the list of MVPs with Gazy on top. It was a great graphic. So Matty Gunn, Pistol, we call him. Last name's Guns, hence why we call him Pistol. But shout out to him. It was an amazing graphic. Always like when, we get to post that stuff, especially when it's a piece of work you're happy with. So shout out to him.
Shout out to him. Shout out to him. Shout out to Bryce. I actually know the graphic you're talking about. And overall, the graphics were on point all night. The social media always doing a good job. Sean McDonald. Yes. Most improved. That's I would love for you to edit.
I should do that.
Right there. There's some claps for our boy Shawnee Mac. That was my favorite part of the night, because we definitely weren't expecting it, and Shawnee definitely was not expecting it. So we were sitting there chatting away, barely listening, and then there's a great video on the Jack Jumpers story. I don't know if it'll be still there. It won't be still there, but it was some good stuff. And, we're chatting away, and then we just hear Shawnee Mac, and we just look at each other, me and him, mouth wide open. He's like, what the hell? I got to get up there. He was shocked and rattled, but Sean McDonald, the first ever most improved development player, surely.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I'm like, is he still? I didn't even realize he was still technically a development player. Like, that's pretty crazy when you think about it. But I like that one as well, because he strikes me as the type that, like you said, he wasn't even expecting it. Like, if you guys were honestly stunned at the table, imagine what was going through his mind. Like, it would be excitement, but it would also be like, shit, do I have to speak? Do I have to do all this media now? So, obviously a cool moment for your franchise. No,
definitely. And then a couple of other awards, we'll quickly get through them. 6th man of the year was Clark from Melbourne. Defensive player of the year was Shea Illy from Melbourne. And then coach of the year, which was an interesting one. And I think probably the closest battle of the night. What's your thoughts? Someone must have been listening to our podcast and just said, give it to number 1, Dean Vickerman. But he takes it over the Tatum effect of the Illawarra Hawks. How does that one have you feeling?
I don't know, to be honest. I was pretty confident that the rest of the voters or everyone would kind of be on the same wagon with me, as in Justin Tatum has done enough. But look, you you won that one, and you also won the Next Gen Award, which we can touch on after this. But maybe it was just literally the turnaround, because I actually forgot that Melbourne didn't even make the playoffs last year, which sounds weird to me. But Dean Vickerman said that in a press conference today, and I was like, really? But anyway, you can't argue with number one. You can't argue with their whole record. What do you think? Do you think they got that one right? I think overall the awards were pretty dead on, just saying.
I definitely think they were pretty good. I've always backing my boy Mags. I think he's a beast. So always wish he could have gotten one. He was in the Defensive Player of the Year and the Sixth Man of the Year.
Yes.
But then it does bring up one interesting thing that I've been thinking about. So there's the first team, second team. We talked about that all for the kind of the all defensive team. But it is interesting that the three players nominated for Defensive Players of the Year, none of them are in the first or second team. And I think that is an interesting kind of perspective on the value we put on offense and what people bring offensively to a team. When you're going to say the top three defenders in the league they're not the top 10 players, arguably, right? And so I think that's something to reflect on that I think is very interesting when we put our weight on what we think about players, their performance, how good they are, what they bring to the team, and what they bring to winning basketball games.
That's a good point by you. Good fact-checking. Good research. Every time you make a good point, I feel like I should call you like Jackson or something. Like, very good point by you, Jackson. Anyway, I just rolled off the tongue. Next Gen, the Sam Froling Award. You were right. I'm still like I know when you raise like an issue as in like, hey, so and so shouldn't have won, or hey, something shouldn't be that. You have to bring a solution to the table. That's what you're always taught. And I'm gonna say I don't know if I like that Sam Froling won it again, but I had to bring a solution to the table, and I don't really have one. I said Josh Bennon last week, but that was kind of just to throw it in there because I kind of like the guy. But I don't know. It's an interesting one. I still think I said it last week. I think he's above Next Gen, but he's still young. So, and he's still killing it.
Well, I think it definitely makes people reflect on the award, because if you're putting it under 25 as the only category, then Sam Froling deserves it. He's by far the best player in the league under 25. It's not even close. And then it's interesting because we talk about interviews, and I love the way what people speak about. But the first thing he talked about was that it's pretty stiff for the rookies in the league, and he said shout out to all the rookies. And he gave some names, and he said they had a hell of a year. And the Next Gen Award is really cool, but it definitely leaves a room for a Rookie of the Year, and missing out on that because it's such an iconic kind of award. But then it's an interesting one in the NBL because sometimes there's only one or two rookies in a year in the NBL.
Do you reckon they should have both? Rookie of the Year and Next Gen, or like you said, sometimes there's not enough rookies that it's kind of a bit awkward?
I would say probably it's an interesting one because the conversation's great. Now, the reason I think that the Next Gen is 25 and under is because when you come out of college, you're 23 or 24 years old. So you want someone coming fresh out of college to have the chance of winning it. But my argument would probably be to lower that age, maybe then to 23. And that makes it more of a Next Gen award, or you just accept that great players are going to come along and win it every single year for 4 years in a row.
True. It is, no, like you said, it's a good conversation. I wanted to touch on one last thing, unless you had any other pointers from the night. I wanted to touch on one more thing, and it's probably my highlight of the night, and that's Corey Williams coming up on stage and giving his speech. And I'm sure you can agree, like the room dynamic kind of changed when he came up there because he's going through the battle with cancer. Everyone knows that, and he's kind of... I was laughing to myself because he was definitely, like, he is that polarizing figure that people... Like, not everyone likes him. Not everyone likes his strong opinions and stuff, but when someone like that goes through what he's going through, it kind of just brings everyone in the room together, and it's just like, it's just basketball. Like, there's so much bigger stuff than basketball, and it was very nice to just see him up on stage. Kind of, he even got emotional, which I haven't really seen, to be honest. He even just got emotional, reflecting on his journey, and I think just reflecting on all the support and stuff he's received. So that was a really cool moment. I even went back on YouTube. For anyone that hasn't watched it, just go on the NBL YouTube and watch the Corey Williams bit. But I just watched it again today because you don't really take it in as much as you can on the night if you're doing other things. But yeah, shout out to him. It was just super cool to hear him talk, and even just get emotional because like he's normally that strong, bold personality, but you know we're all human, so just wanted to shout that out as well.
100%. I mean, it's always cool that he's down here too in Australia doing his thing, a second home.
Yeah.
And then when anyone, especially someone that feels comfortable in front of a camera, can articulate themselves, has that charisma, when they can get up in front of that camera still when they're going through such a battle and express it, articulate it, talk about it, I think it's always pretty incredible for people to listen to. So shout out to Corey for getting up there, doing his thing. And you're right, there definitely fell a silence over the whole place and where people were listening to what he was saying.
Yeah, no, it was pretty special. It was pretty special. I wanted to ask, where'd you put your trophy, by the way? Because you were a bit puzzled of where you're going to put it, weren't you? You're all NBL second. Is it just like where do you like? You just get home, do you just chuck it on the bench and leave it for a bit, or are you one of those people that have proper plans with all your sporting achievements?
It's interesting. I do have one little area. If you're watching this, you can kind of see it behind the screen. I have a little area, but I don't know. The trophies don't really do much for me, but I currently don't even have the trophy because the NBL took them back to put our names on them because the final awards only happened, like got entered on Sunday. And then obviously it was a Monday night. So they're going to ship them down. It was a pretty nice trophy. Might be one I keep until I move, and then who knows? I might donate it or who. Trophies aren't the reason I do it. I can promise you that. I try to live a minimalist lifestyle, and the nomad lifestyle has me. The more I move, the more stuff I have, the harder it gets.
The nomad lifestyle. There you go. I've got a hype up. Have you got one? Even though it's purely award based. Mine isn't award based. So tough luck. I've gone off script. Hype someone up. I just want to hype someone up. Go on a bit of a rant. Anyone that's caught our attention, just give him some love. I just couldn't go past not mentioning Dave O'Hickey's end of third quarter, specifically versus Perth. Now, it feels weird when we have all these media stuff in the last few days because it feels like games were ages ago, even though they weren't. But if you've got time, go back and watch the end of the third quarter because his just energy swings and momentum swings based off that energy is just super cool. And I just think he's one of those stories where it's like he's just sort of stuck around for a while. I think he's been a development player at Southeast and Melbourne as well. He's kind of found a role with Illawarra and they are, well, you get to see him firsthand next Wednesday. So just tell him I'm a fan if you get to match up on him. But no, super. He's just one of those spark plugs and has found a role with his team. So I just couldn't help but bring that up.
I like it. I'll have to give him a slap on the butt and say, hey, my boy Darren loves your game, man. Bad luck today, but I know Darren might slightly be cheering for you. Maybe. I hope not, but maybe a little bit.
Nah. I think most of 99% of cheering is going to you. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's what I like to hear. My hype up is the Jack Jumpers. Now, it was a pretty successful night for the boys, some awards. It was a great, fun trip. And I'm just hyping up what the Jack Jumpers are building right now. We were sitting 12-12 only 2 weeks ago. We were on this call, a little bit of stress in the air, people asking, like, what's going to happen here? Anyone's game. And then we strung off 4 in a row, made it our playoffs, 3rd year in a row, 3rd winning season, 16-12. And so I'm hyping up the Jack Jumpers right now because they're playing some good basketball. Closest game in the last 2 weeks, I think, was been 15 points. And I tell you what, they've found a little bit of a groove heading into playoff basketball.
And you said that you basically questioned, you're like, are we real or are we not? You have to throw those questions to yourself sometimes. And I think something about you guys that I know people have talked about this, but I still think it's wild that you didn't lose a game by more than 10 points. That's pretty crazy. I don't know. It's kind of like a weird stat that it sounds almost made up. Yeah.
I can back you up with an even cooler stat with that. This season, in our 12 losses, the total amount of points we lost by was 55. And that is how many points Southeast lost to Sydney by on the weekend.
Oh, speaking of, yes, okay. I'm glad you brought that up. I was going to bring this up, but I got lost in the MVP awards. But that's a great stat. You've done well again. You're pretty good at bringing these things to the table. Do you think, so I had this question written down for you. So Southeast lost by 55 points, as you just mentioned, and just let that sink in. 55 points. I know the season's over for them. I know all of that. I know they have injuries, but Do you think anytime a team loses by 55, like, do you think there's any sort of thing to worry about that performance, or you just like it doesn't actually matter because the game's irrelevant? To me, I'll just quickly say, to me, surely, like I just go back to the whole pride on the line thing. Give your fans one last thing to cheer about, compete, that type of stuff. But what are your thoughts?
I think you just nailed it on the head.
Okay, thank you. There you go. Nothing more to add.
Nothing more to add.
Okay, 55. I don't know. I don't like being harsh because I really like some of the boys down there, and I've always like kind of warmed to that team in general. But yeah, 55 is a big number. Moving on.
Remember, you're a fan. You know, year one when we started this podcast, it was Southeast Melbourne. You were behind it. You were getting around it, and here you are with the Jack Jumper jersey on, cheering your name, and you know, our style of play won you over. So all things end well in the end, unless you're a Southeast Melbourne fan.
Just had to throw that in there. I actually thought before we'll quickly wrap up soon, but before I wanted to jump on this podcast because I knew I was going to try to hype you up a bit, and I'm like, it's a bit criminal that I don't even have a Jack McVeigh jersey or a Tassie jersey or Tassie anything. I literally don't have anything that represents us except for Shooters Pod t-shirt, of course. Shout out to Jess Radford, but yeah, I'll have to get that one day.
What size are you, mate? I'll get that to you before the playoff starts.
Oh, before the okay, quick turnaround. I normally say large, nice and loose, but depends what size. Although jerseys are big, so large or medium, I'll make it work.
Large or medium, either one. I'll see what I can do and send one to you. So I'll have to get you your address, and I'll get you a jersey in the next week. That is despicable by me.
It's all about who you know in this world. Grateful for. You go right ahead.
Wow, this is a negative space. I'm just going to start chucking up random things I'm grateful for.
This is incredible. This is the best grateful for I've ever heard.
Grateful for, I'm on the Jack Jumpers train right now because I'm just, you know, that's what it's been. That's what my life is right now. But I'm just grateful for Will Magnay at the moment. We had a great day yesterday, hanging out, traveling to Melbourne together, enjoying each other's company. Always tough getting nominated and not getting an award. So I'm grateful for him being a beast. He was hyping me up crazy about being all NBL second team. We'll sit next to each other at the dinner, had a great time. And then I know he's going to bring some big energy once his playoff starts. So I'm just grateful for Magnay and enjoying the Jack Jumpers train. He was also giving me some crap yesterday for not coming on the podcast as a guest yet. So we might have to make that happen.
We can make it happen. He'll be huge for you guys moving forward. It's just consistency with him. Like, I reckon he would have had one of those awards locked up if he was just, I think it was that start of the year that he didn't play that much. But I'm just grateful for being in the same room and as everyone last night. Like, I think it's really cool that, like, I'm in my sixth season. It'll be easy to take it for granted sometimes. And I think I still do. Like, I still sort of kind of like walk around and I'm just like, oh, I'm comfortable. But then I'm like, oh, this is really cool. And anyway, so there's not many opportunities that we get that everyone is in the same room, or most people. Not every player could make it last night because of room capacity or something. But no, just that. I think it's cool. It's always enjoyable. It's always enjoyable having those quick chats. And to be honest, sometimes you forget about who you've talked to along the way. Like, for example, Modi Mayor just like tapped me on the shoulder today and said hello and started talking to me. And I'm just like, how do you know me? Like, I actually don't remember the last time I talked to him, but I really appreciated that. So little moments like that, it's cool.
That is nice. Well, if he's listening, shout out. Yeah, I hope you're enjoying the episode and the summary of the awards. And then secondly, I never realized that our NBL career started at the exact same time.
Wow. Is it okay? I've never realized that as well. That's pretty damn cool.
Your sixth year, my sixth year. I didn't realize that.
Jeez, getting married in the same year. Just lives. Let's have a kid. I was going to say let's have a kid together, but at the same time, I should say. That's cool.
Yeah, that'd be much nicer. Wow, who knows? Who knows where life will take us? But we're definitely on that same path, trajectorying upwards, career, life. There's two random blokes on a podcast talking about hoops. And somehow our paths have crossed in Germany, in the NBL, and we're just going at the same timeline.
Wow, I think we just had a bit of a moment. That was great. Thanks for the great statistics by you today. You just you're nailing that. I like it. But that's actually pretty cool. 6 years in both times. For that, I'll give you the honor of leading us out, actually.
Well, 6 years in, episode 25, season 2, The regular season has been wrapped up. Playoffs are about to begin, and we got a special something different coming next week. We're going to be dropping the episode on Wednesday next week, talking matchups, talking playoffs, all good things exciting, because we're excited for the start of playoffs, and next Wednesday will be the first game. So check in, tune in for that Wednesday podcast. Darren and me will be having some fun, and tonight, go Jack Jumpers. That's what will be happening next Wednesday. Thank you for listening, guys. Appreciate you all.